Contrast uncut, yeah, you know that's us. Where we only speak the real and the real rock with us. Where we motivate the people and politic on success. Oh no, we ain't DJ Khaled, but they swearing we the best. Contrast uncut, contrast uncut, contrast uncut, contrast uncut.
What's happening? It's Contrast Uncut. It's season 4, episode 42. I want to give a big shout out to Uncle Snoop's Army and Bobby D Presents. I appreciate you, brothers. It's your host, Zylo, aka DJ Juan Dollars, like I won some money. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we got an incredibly living legendary special guest. You understand me? He's from the City of Angels. You know, the land of opportunity, the surreal reality of the streets, Los Angeles, California. This brother right here is an Academy Award-winning music supervisor. He's Complex Magazine has named him one of the top 25 best A&Rs in the hip-hop industry. He is a talent discoverer and developer, film TV producer, and a marketing genius during the golden age of hip-hop era where you had to get it out the mud. He is a Paul of all trades, you understand me? His music career started off at Delicious Vinyl. He has notably discovered acts like iconic West Coast groups The Pharcyde and legendary G-Funk rapper Warren G, to managing and developing the careers of Coolio, to House of Pain, De La Soul, to Cypress Hill. When it comes to the film, this brother was blessed to work with one of the GOATs of the film industry. I'm talking legendary, you understand me, John Singleton. And being under his wing and leading to a deeply influential music supervisor career. Starting off with John Singleton's second film, Poetic Justice, his need in the game turned into 50 plus films as a music supervisor. With such films as Academy Award winning movie Hustle and Flow, to Barbershop, to Four Brothers, to Too Fast, Too Furious, to TV shows like my favorites, SNOWFALL, My Wife and I Be Digging Insecure, and many more. This brother was also the set DJ for the hit TV show Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I could keep going, but right now that would take away from the whole interview. We only got like 40 minutes in this motherfucker, so. And if you don't know who I got on the show by now, it's all good. We got all episode to chop it up with the white boy from Crenshaw, you understand me, DJ P. Paul Stewart. How you doing, brother?
What's up, man? Thank you for that lovely intro. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was nice. That was nice.
It's all love, bro. You know, sometimes the flowers got to be smelled and they got to be heard. You know? Time's the most finite thing we have on this earth. So I got to tell you from the beginning, brother, I appreciate your time rocking with me, rocking with the listeners and the viewers. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Speaking of time, Paul, what's the normal 24 hours for you?
Well, you know, man, I try to ingest quality food, exercise, good herbal supplements, if you know what I'm saying. You know, I'm a smoker. You know, I smoke the trees. I work. I listen to music. I talk shit. I talk shop. I chop it up with my folks, my people. I investigate angles. I try to help the community. I talk to young artists and school them on the game. You know, I try to give back to, you know, the culture that's given me a whole career and all this stuff, you know. And enjoy life, have fun, man. It's too short to, you know, just make everything business. You know what I mean? So
it's crazy because on the latter half of your career, you're still paying it forward. Paying it forward to your body, you're paying it forward to the culture, you're paying it forward to honestly the communities. I mean, you know, you're a part of such a genuine cloth of what's going on that you influence so much. From the music that we hear on these shows and on these on the movies, that has a code association of what to expect, and you allow that dialogue to go there.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate all that. Yeah, it's interesting because my first, you know, I was already a successful manager and discovering artists, and I met John Singleton, you know, right after he had done Boys in the Hood, so he was working on his second movie, Poetic Justice, and I had never even thought about working with music and film like that, but he saw that I was talented and I was discovering music, and he believed in me and he gave me that opportunity, and so then I just really took it on to learn the craft, because in the first movie that I did, which was Poetic Justice, John used me kind of different than every director, filmmaker uses music supervisors a little different. But with John, he was just like more. It was like I was an A&R source. Like, go find me the hot shit, So I was just in the streets trying to find the dope stuff. He kind of knew what he wanted to do with it, more or less. So I didn't learn that much about the art of music supervision on my first film. Then I just took it upon myself to really study, the craft more, because John kind of had me insulated, what I'm saying? It was like the studio was doing the administrative part, which I didn't realize how, what a beast that is. Because later I grew as a music supervisor, I had to take that on and do that part myself. And John was really, he didn't really school me in the art of music supervision. I don't need that. Bring me hot music. And he loved the music I was bringing him, and so we ended up working together on like tons of projects, through the years, it was such an honor to work with him and to be involved with projects like Hustle and Flow. And, it was just like a dream come true for somebody like myself who was just a fan of hip hop and to get to work on movies that actually show the culture and like a real,
authenticity
not in an authentic way. That's always been my thing as a music supervisor, no matter what kind of film I'm doing, or, if it's a Memphis hip hop thing, it's got to be that real, and so if it's about the TV show takes place in the Bay Area, we're gonna try to use Bay Area artists, or or whatever. So and my job as a supervisor also is to help the filmmakers realize their musical vision.
I just want to throw this in there because that's something that really be upsetting me about a lot of stuff that goes on. They just hire random people to do certain things because they have a degree or they've crossed this line with this person. So it's like, here, let me have it to you. And then we're the ones watching the film, or we're watching certain things, and it's like, that didn't represent the culture, that didn't represent this, that didn't do for this. And it's just like, who is that person?
Well, it's a whole system. Like, as we're talking about like systematic racism in like the police departments and in our society and culture in general, it's also a big part of the entertainment industry. So what you're talking about is our culture, which has been, and I'm saying this as a white person, but who's been a part of like urban culture, I'll say, or black culture, and the hip hop culture and all that stuff. They take the Hollywood and these other, established major entities that have systematic racism inside, by the very nature of how they operate, it's kind of like taking the stories out of authenticity and whitewashing them off and to put them out. And this was like such a problem for our culture for like many years, and it still is, but more. There's people getting in places of power that actually understand the culture. So, you see both things. You see things that come out that are a travesty to the culture still, but then you also see a lot of things that are just like, oh, wow, that's great, because filmmakers are getting a chance to tell their stories now who are actually authentically from and part of the culture. So when you get these kind of people telling their stories, it's going to be real, Just like Hustle and Flow, that dude had been living in Memphis for a while, the director, writer, so he had been soaking up that scene. He was a fan of it. So when he made the movie, it came from a real, genuine place, and you can feel that.
Right. The heat transferred. As we're talking about this, I got a quote. I take quotes and try to run with the spirit of when I take them and be like, how does this relate to you? And then I present it to you.
Okay.
So let me know how it relates. At heart, I'm a dude from South Central LA. We roll the way we roll because we had survival tactics. We had to learn how to adapt. That's just me, John Singleton.
Wow. Well, obviously, man, talking about John is an emotional subject for me, because of him recently passing and him being like the person who did more for my career single-handedly than probably like any one person, you know what I mean? But like, that says so much to like who he was. I heard Ice Cube being interviewed recently on Lord Jamar's podcast, and he said how when Singleton wanted Ice Cube to play the role, he was like, why does he want me to do that? I'm not an actor. And then after he did the role, he was like, he told Cube, when are you gonna write a script? He's like, why am I gonna write a script? He's like, well, they're not gonna write something dope for you. And like, just like the way he was installing that in other people, like other people of color and other people tell their stories. I mean, yeah, John, man, you know, I mean, it's just, he was such an inspiration, you know, and, you know, and he was, you know, he was just such a good person, you know what I mean? Like, if he thought you were authentic or real, you know what I mean? Like, there's nobody that put on more people of color, but he wasn't opposed to putting me on, you know what I mean, either, you know what I mean? He loved that I was from the community. He knew I was authentic, and he thought I was the best person for the job when he hired me, and that's why he did. You know what I mean? Because he cared so much about the art of the music and the film, and that was so important to him. It was more important than just trying to put on some of his homeboy or whatever. You know what I mean? And yeah, he took it serious, man. Like, you know, depicting South Central LA in films and TV shows as he would go on to do. You know, from Boys in the Hood to Poetic Justice to everything in between, and your Baby Boy and the SNOWFALL. He took that serious. He wanted that representation to be like really authentic, and that's who brought me into the game. Like, that's who I learned from. So, like, you know, even though he didn't teach me like some of the things about music supervision that I learned later, like, he taught me so much more. You know what I mean? In just the overall approach and aesthetic, like, you know, having to be real. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you know, that was really important to him, you know what I mean? And as I make that like my main, you know, the greatest tribute I can try to do to him is carry that on, especially like I'm working as a consultant on SNOWFALL, so for his legacy and anything that I work on, even if it has no attachment to it, to like, you know, the greatest thing I can do to kind of honor his legacy is to try to keep that vision that he cared about so much, right, going on, and get authentic representations of our culture however I can support. And I'm in a unique role because as a music supervisor, if you know, like, man, I was blessed to introduce Calmatic to John Singleton on the set of SNOWFALL before he passed. And, you know, but like, you know, so to try to like, music licensing is a jungle. It's very expensive and it's very complicated. And so, you know, to try to be the interpreter of future young storytellers or any kind of storytellers to help them get the music right for their project, because I mean, come on, anyone that comes from our culture or anywhere, so music is going to be so important to their story making, really any film, but especially people that come from hip hop, black culture, this kind of thing. So, you know, I'm a musicologist. I mean, I have love of, you know, black music from blues, jazz, gospel to like the trap shit that's happening right now and everything in between. And so Caribbean music, and you know, so I'm ready to help those storytellers, you know, get their music right. I look at it as kind of a responsibility, but it's a huge joy when you get to work with somebody, and you know what I mean. So
yeah, absolutely. No,
shout out to Calmatic. I hope to work on House Party.
Come on, you
Reboot.
Come on, you need to run that. But, you know, something that's very unique about what the culture does for us, because both of us, we're both white skinned.
Right.
And I grew up in the hood, in the gutter. And, you know, I rode around with people that you know, people were feared of. And then when you learn to run around with those people, you embody that. And as you grow up in the culture, you realize like, hey, you know, they doing this over here. They not finna do that to me. Right. So I got to move in a way that they can't get me in, and I can't have that process go forward. So we got to respect each other. And the coldest game that I learned in LA especially is give respect. You know, head down before head up. And, you know, really look a person in their eyes and let them know like it's good. And people will receive that. And you'll have a lot more of a bond with someone you don't know in a hostile environment than you would in an environment where you try to be hard, because someone's always harder than you. Yeah,
no. I was blessed to grow up in Crenshaw area, and I was really blessed to grow up in the area that I did, because it was so mixed. Because I grew up in Baldwin Hills, and so right above the jungle. So on my block, there's like a black brain surgeon, there's like a black judge, there's a black NFL player. I'm seeing like black excellence. You know, people, not only black people that made money, but that also wanted to stay in the community. So think about that, right? So I'm surrounded by this kind of environment, but we walk through the jungles every day, the projects, the J's, right? To go to school, to do this, whatever. So you
gotta come down that hill.
Right, so you get some of that thing, but being from where I was, you know, when I started to get in the music industry and everything, I was comfortable around in different situations. I was comfortable dealing with people from street backgrounds, but I really started to learn a lot from them when I first started working with them, because my interactions with them as a younger person were not, you know, I didn't grow up in the projects, you know what I'm saying? So I didn't have that experience, you know what I mean? So I was somewhat removed, even though I had interactions with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And it's right there and I can see what's going on. So when I got into the music industry and I'm really dealing with cats that's like from Compton, Watts, and like from like hoods, you know what I mean? You know, and I always got along with guys like that great. They respected me, they liked me. I was trying to help them make money to get out of the situations they were in. I never messed with no kind of street gangbanging stuff. It was not my thing to be trying to be hard or be a part of this or whatever like that, you know. And I always got respect from street cats and never was one of the ones, you know, guys to get like people trying to extort me, or I never had these kind of problems. I'm good going around any kind of communities in Los Angeles. I mean, I have a lot of love when I roll around in these areas, because I be running into people and they're like, oh, you put my uncle on, my cousin, you know, because I have this long legacy of like 30 years of like helping people in Los Angeles music industry, you know, get their music and films, TV, or all, you know, back in the day when I was more active, getting people labeled, getting them record deals and all that kind of stuff, you know. So, you know, and I'm just a approachable person, always open to try to see if somebody has something that they can bring me, that can help us, you know. So I think I feel really blessed to have learned a lot from people that had that street environment and energy and things like that, and growing up so close to it that I did, but not actually growing up in it, you know, because I think that just broadened my horizons, you know what I mean, because I was seeing that other side too, and that's just how it was for me. So I, you know, I can't, you know, just how it turned out, you know.
I respect it. I respect it.
Yeah.
You know, feeling about the entertainment industry, do you feel like the game chose you, or did you choose the game?
I don't know. Because I didn't know nothing about the music industry. Like, I didn't even, and I was so removed from the industry side of it as a youngster, I didn't even like fathom that there were jobs, people making these records. I was just listening to the music. I was just a fan, you know what I mean? But I started doing all this stuff like DJing, working at record stores, buying 12 inches, putting on concerts. I was in the industry, but not even thinking about it. I was just doing what I loved. And then when I got out of college and everything, and it's kind of like, well, now what do? I messed around and met a dude that worked at a major label, and I was like, well, how does that work, whatever, and I got an internship. So you could say, you know what I mean? It could kind of go either way, depending on how you look at it. Because I never had this intention, like, oh, I'm going to be, you know, Irving Azoff, or I'm going to be, you know, or something. I'm going to be, you know, Puffy wasn't even out yet, so I can't even, you reference him, but, you know, I'm going to be this successful. I didn't have any of those examples, but I grinded my way until I got up. So you could say that I chose the game because I worked my way to get there, but I didn't have the vision that that's what I was doing until I was kind of almost in it. You know what I mean?
I feel like your passion led to your purpose, and your purpose led to your career. And, you know, it just kept on evolving.
Well, I couldn't have put it better.
I'm just saying, bro, you know, speaking about the entertainment game, and what would you consider your first confirmation or affirmation that that's where you're supposed to keep on going with your career?
Well, almost from when I got my first internship at Arista Records, I'm working like 50-hour weeks, maybe more, for like $100 a week or a month. Something ridiculous. Yeah, it was something ridiculous, you know, what they were paying us. But I was learning the industry and I was hooked. So instantly, as soon as I got in the industry, I got hooked. You know what I mean? Kind of like the first check I ever got was when I got the Pharcyde, their record deal, I got a publishing deal for them. The record deal, you know, I got an advance, you know, they got an advance and I got my commission, but it was pretty small, like, because a lot of the money goes towards making the record and all this stuff, you know. And it was an independent label, so it wasn't this huge artist advance, but the publishing deal was pretty significant. So when we did the publishing deal, my advance was enough for me to go buy a Ford Explorer at Crenshaw Ford, kept my money in the community, and went down there and bought that. And that was my first check in the industry. like one big check, like where I could go buy a new car. So, that was pretty significant.
Wow, that's a code confirmation. If you don't know when that bag comes in and it looks right, that's your confirmation.
The first ever, Mm-hmm.
You started off with the legendary label Arista, and then as we know, you developed into Delicious Vinyl, and you continue to go on with your street promotions
right.
and your marketing company.
Right, PMP. Right.
And records and I have it down here, but I'm really getting lost on camera. This doesn't look good. So let's start this over. You started off with legendary Arista Records that worked into Delicious Vinyl, that led into your marketing company and street team promotions, working for the likes of Queen Latifah, Naughty by Nature, De La Soul, just to name a few. How did the marketing promotion idea manifest, and was Manifest in Prayer something that you use to today and what you go and envision for yourself? Because at that time, and we were talking about 1982, 1983, 84.
No, it was a little bit after that. It was probably about it was probably like 88, 89, like around there. When I was really doing the street promotion, yeah.
So street promotion wise, we're talking about 88, 89. This is E40 in the Bay Area pushing tapes out, and there's not too many people doing it. Too Short doing it as well.
Yeah.
And in LA, they're doing their thing, but they're doing it differently. And it's the nostalgia of what you represented, and it's just like, how did you come to that point of saying, hey, the game's missing this, and this is what I could provide, and you got people from the East Coast coming down and fucking with you.
Right. Well, I wish I could take credit for having the vision, but it was not that way. What happened was, after the internship at Arista, I got the job at Delicious, and then my friend Matt Robinson got a label deal with Island. So he hired me to do A&R for that. But it was kind of a short-lived situation, and when it ended, I didn't have a job. And no one wanted to hire me. I thought I had kind of proven myself in the industry, but there didn't see many jobs. But I had a good friend, Curtis Harmon, incredible person, DJ from K-Day, one of the original mix masters. And he came to me and said, hey, I got this opportunity to do street promotion on this record from Relativity Records. Why don't you do it with me? That's not really my thing. I'll play it in the mixes, you know what I mean? And you can go out and do the promotion, and we'll split the money. And so I went out and bought a computer, which was really a word processor. There was no internet or anything. Ooh, that's good data right there, right? This is probably like 91, 90, something like that. And a fax machine, and printed up some business cards, and PMP was born, Power Move Promotions. And I took that, and I soon after got hired by Tommy Boy on a retainer. And Tommy Boy at that time was, killing it. They had, Queen Latifah, De La Soul, Naughty by Nature. So that's where all that came from. Then I got some accounts with companies like Elektra, so I was working Brand Nubian and Pete Rock and some of that stuff. And so it was just such a golden era for hip hop. But I just, that's where my real kind of hustle came out. Like my work ethic and my entrepreneurial side kind of came out. Where I took that one account and grew a whole company, and eventually had a bunch of people working for me and stuff. I wasn't as great at running the company, but I was great at starting it and getting the work, and but I needed good partners to kind of help me in more the administrative side. I was really creative, and but yeah, so I did that for a few years until my management thing kind of took off, and eventually led to me getting record labels and stuff.
I feel like a lot of what you do is you make it happen. If there's something missing, you're like, hey, I can fill that gap in with something, and then that thing is now happening. And I feel like a lot of that has developed into the person we have today. I could be wrong, but this is just me observing.
No, I pop my collar to that.
You hear me 2 times. I want to make sure we spend some time on the importance of perfecting your craft, putting in the hour after hour of work into your gifts in the full display. That's called an outlier. If you haven't read that book, go ahead, get yourself on there.
The 10,000 hours?
10,000 hours. Master of your work ethic. Can you give the listeners an insight to the path of, what it took for you to do it? You started off 50 hours intern for $100 a week. That's $5. No, that's like $1. What is it? $2 an hour. See, I'm all bad with my math.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's been easier because I love the creative part of what I do. So that's not even really work for me, right? That part is just they whoever said that, find out what you love to do and make that a career, that person was a genius, right? Because, that's the truest thing, But yeah, I mean, all of my job is not the fun part, though. there's the administrative part and there's the work and everything like that. And I've had to grow and learn and work hard at that. So yeah, I mean, you know, and anything like when when John recognized my talent and hired me as a music supervisor, then I went on a spending spree. I bought like every DVD of like every important movie, and I watched the like behind the scenes, and I studied the use of music and kind of put myself through like a little film school almost. You know what I mean? So because I was like, I felt like the emperor's new clothes. Like people are saying I'm a music supervisor, but I don't even know shit about what they do because I kind of just lucked out when John hired me. You know what I mean? So that was a case of me like putting in my, you know, and now I've done so many movies and TV shows, just the experience of how shit actually works, not in theory or not studying other works, is such an education to kind of like, you know, I work on filmmakers sometimes now, it's like their first movie. It's like, yeah, I've done like 40 or what, you know, you can take my TV shows and everything. I got something like over 50, 60 credits. So I don't know, I've probably done like about 30 movies. I don't know, something like that, you know. But, yeah, so I mean, I have a lot of experience to offer people in the overall, because it's a very complicated, you know, thing, like how you're going to spend your budget, how much does the composer get, how much you're going to put towards the syncs, and, you know, to try to figure all that out, you know what I mean? And like, sometimes people understand my value in that, and they help me, you know, kind of craft it from the beginning. Often I just come in and they go, yeah, this is what you got, you don't deal with it or whatever. So that's what it is, you know what I mean? But yeah, no matter what it is, what you do, you got to put in that work, you know. I mean, I think, you know, especially now where there's more artists than ever and more opportunities for people to be on the business side and everything. Like, everyone's a this and a that, and everybody's a creative director, and you know, I mean, I'm just saying, like, you know, like, put in your work, you know, and stand out above the crowd.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I firmly believe that.
No, I'm personally, when you said that earlier, I pointed at Keith off camera because I've been teasing him, because once we started doing the documentary for Second to None, he let me know what my role was. All I know is that, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that, and I'm going to do it all to make it happen. If I get pieces to make it happen, that's a blessing. And then if I get solid pieces that can really stand on top of something, I'm going to learn from that. And I've been telling him, I've been going to film school with him since we started working together, because he went to film school.
Sure.
And then it led into a job where now I'm able to produce music videos. We just did a big video yesterday.
Congrats.
And it was amazing. Blessing. I've been on Hub because I got to produce a music video.
Yeah.
Shout out Blue Pig, created by Blue. And, you know, all of this is all curating because he took a chance to say, hey, this brother got some type of talent inside of him, and he's getting around all the right people. He just got to find another way to get that stickiness to stick to everything else so that they can grow. And then, you know, you start understanding. I dove head in.
But that's a real testament to the strength in partnerships, though. Like, you can't do it all by yourself, man. Like, people need to team up. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you need him and he needs you, and together alone, it's not an entity like this. So, yeah.
You can't run on high-powered effectiveness that you would if it was otherwise. But, you know, as you said that, I was like, no, I got to punch that in. I have to. You know, as one of the top 25 A&Rs of all time in hip-hop industry and in the game, recently starting a music consulting company. You make sure y'all holler at bruh. You know, understand your syncs, your licensing, and placement, get some real game. I got to ask, what are you looking for in the artist? What kind of game can you kick to me, you know, I'm an A&R, I work with producers. I try to think of a creative way to get on the side of things and work on placements. I hit producers like, hey, I can get placements for you. I'm around all these artists. I'm interviewing them, we're doing this. And so it's like, okay, what can you give on what you're inside of what you're looking for, and then how are you growing from what you're doing? You got top 25 A&R in the game. You hear me?
Well, you know, I think back to authenticity. You know, like, I've worked with a lot of different type of artists, you know, like Coolio, Pharcyde, things that were different, you know what I mean? You know, a very diverse, different type of artists that I've been involved in discovering for music supervision and the stuff that I did as a manager and a label. So, you know, it's not like, for me, it's not like one particular style or anything for sure, but being authentic to who you are, obviously being creative and talented. I mean, I think, you know, we're in an age where if people figure out the social media marketing part, it's almost like people don't care about the talent, but I'm a little old school to still care about the talent, you know. And I think that, you know, other
long term.
Yeah, people can have that flash in the pan thing or whatever, you know. But at the same time, in this day and age, though, an artist that's talented but's not self-marketing himself and hasn't built up the thing, is like, I can't do nothing with you. You know what I mean? So it's like you're not understanding the game, how it's working right now. I'm the old dude and I'm telling you about the new shit. Come on, man. You know, like, and I appreciate you're an artist and everything, and that's cool. You know, and some artists aren't built like that, but you got to find somebody on your team who is and build it. Be smart enough to like understand, because that's crucial. So yeah, I mean, you know, I'm looking for artists that understand the business, that understand what they need to be doing now as artists, that are talented, and hopefully bringing some creative and a little different to the game. So it's not just a repeat of exactly something else that's already happening.
So it's safe to say, be true to yourself and bring something to fill the void.
Yeah, and work ethic is huge.
So don't be late.
Yeah, being smart about your business in general. Like, you know, understand the business. You know, those kind of artists and producers are just leagues above to work with than the people that don't understand the business at all.
At what point does an artist or a talent realize, hey, do I go from doing stuff for free to, hey, I should be getting paid?
Well, you know, these are like great questions. This is a great question, but a very complicated one that would be, I would have to answer in my consulting session for somebody one-on-one, you know, looking at...
This is your variables.
Right, because it depends on the situation, you know what I mean? But like, until you're making money, if there's any kind of upside to it, until you're making a lot of money as an artist, like any kind of significant money, if the action has some kind of upside for you, other than money, then basically you should do it.
Whew, that's called opportunity. If you ain't know, if you sleep on it, FTP is not an opportunity sometimes you want to pass on. I need to know, what are your 3 favorite movies you overseen the music as a supervisor?
Hustle and Flow.
Number 1.
Poetic Justice.
Simple. Number 2. Classic.
Yeah.
That's where it gets hard.
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna go with a real obscure one.
Hit me with it.
Cause we used all Screwed music in it. It's called Weapons.
Okay.
Nick Cannon is in it, and it's nothing like you ever seen. It's not like any kind of, you know, it's not like a teen. It's a very dark, gritty, powerful film.
Weapons. Nick Cannon.
Yeah.
Man, shout out Nick.
It was my man who did the that Lil Wayne doc. He's super talented filmmaker. So.
For sure. Okay. What are a few things people got fucked up about the music on television and how to get it on there?
Well, I mean, you know, stocking a music supervisor is probably not going to make it happen.
There's a difference between being persistent and consistent, and stocking.
Yeah, and even being consistent probably ain't gonna make it happen. But it's tough that way. Like, that route is tough. One advice I'll give people, like for the hip hop, because I'm sure we're mostly dealing with hip hop, like, make clean versions, man. Because like basically that's like 75% of the opportunities. If you don't make a clean version, you're not gonna be able to submit your song for. So right there, I just saved you. And the last thing, and I get into this in depth and explain how to do this in my consulting, but you got to get your metadata right. Like, when you submit the song, you got to have all the pertinent information, and a lot of information, like writers, publishers, all this kind of stuff. So,
as we're talking about the administrative side, who is your mentor for your administrative side of learning the game and you know, transferring that heat from creativity so that you're well-rounded, a Rolodex, if you will, of a music supervisor?
I just picked up a lot from people on the way. You know, Tony Abner was an attorney that I worked for a long time, you know, helped me in some respects, but I kind of learned by knocking my head against the wall and doing it, and asking some other supervisors sometimes, of people, and if I didn't know, that were like, you know, more experienced than me and stuff. Can't be scared to ask questions, because I was a little scared to ask at first, because like I just got hired, and it was like I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. You know, I said the emperor's new clothes at first, so I was a little... But, you know, I didn't really, there's been a few different people who have helped me, but I didn't really have a mentor. I just learned from everybody along the way. And a lot of it was about, like, just the organizational skills that I had to pick up to do this right, because you just really have to keep a lot of information at your disposal and be able to access quickly what you need.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts. I do believe there's somebody that puts the idea or puts the dream into someone's vision. You know, who do we owe the thank you for investing into your dreams?
Well, John Singleton is one of the main people, you know, that really believed in me. I mean, other people like the artists, like Pharcyde, Coolio, Warren G, Montell Jordan, all the artists, House of Pain, all the artists that believed in me to say, hey, you know, you be our rep. You know what I mean? Like they all, you know, that guy Tony Abner that I mentioned earlier was my attorney that came on early in my career after my first big signing of a management client that I didn't really get to keep, you know, because I didn't have my contract straight. He came in and helped me get all my legal work straight and everything. So he was a huge, you know, influence and positive impact on my career. But if I had to pick one, I'm gonna give it to John because, you know, he really took me out of being kind of a small manager and, you know, and opened up that whole music supervision lane for me.
Oh yeah, no, that created a huge pipeline to what you do.
Right, and it's hard. It's hard, you know, if people kind of got to give me my respect because it's like, you know, if you respect John Singleton, then you got to, you know what I mean. And who don't respect John Singleton? So
you understand me? How we doing on time?
If we could wrap soon.
35. Okay. Okay.
Questions are great, by the way.
I got a couple questions.
Go ahead, bro. Before I transition.
One is how important is problem solving in music supervision? I've seen certain situations where people would have to use a cover versus an original song and stuff like that. So
problem solving is very important in music supervision. You never know what kind of like situation can come up. But you have, and you kind of almost got a plan for worst case scenarios, and you know, like we clear things before we know if we're going to use them because we know what they're going to cost. And like when you're in a situation like a TV show, you can do that because you have all the information already. You know, you know, sometimes we want to use the original, but we can't afford it, so we find a cover, or we find like a kind of a knockoff, something that. You know, sometimes like things are already edited, but then it can't clear, so you have to find a song that's like gonna work in the edit. Like it might have dancing or anything to it. It might just be cut to it, so it might have to be like the beats might have to be the same or something. You know, so it's definitely like a on your toes type of thing all the way up until when the show is mixed and everything. And like hopefully, like if it's a TV show or a film, like when it gets mixed, like. That's hopefully when you're kind of like everything should be pretty much done. Sometimes the paperwork is still going back and forth, but you've cleared it because they mixed it already. So if the song had to come out, then the time should have been before that, you know. But definitely lots of problem solving.
All right, one more. Sometimes I'll catch these articles and it'll be older musicians from like the 80s and 90s and stuff. They're complaining about the music industry and streams versus physical record sales. How have you been able to stay current and not really focus on, you know, what we're selling, but just doing it?
Man, you just got to keep moving with the way things are going. I mean, you can't get stuck in the
evolve.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm older, man, because when I came out, people were selling vinyl when I was a kid. I mean, you know, of course, there were cassettes were out and everything too. I mean, I'm not that old, you know, but you know, I mean, people buying cassettes, vinyl, and then like, you know, and then all of a sudden it all changed to CD, and then all changed to streaming. I mean, you know, there have been a bunch of changes of the game and the way people get paid. Like, you know, you if you want to stay involved in it, you can't sit and complain about how it changed. I mean, you know, you just got to try to like move with the, you know, the things. And so I'm just really blessed. I think because I grew up in the community where I did, I've been so much a part of the culture. Like, I don't even have that kind of ear. Like, I listen to new music. I love new music. I'm not one of those little persons like, stuck on the old stuff or whatever. You know, I'm a musicologist, so I love old music, of course. But, you know, I mean, I think it's just about staying young, staying relevant, being in touch with young people, studying the industry. You got to really study the industry and how it moves if you want to stay involved in it as it changes. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't have any... You know, I don't have any sympathy for them people just complaining about how this changed or whatever. I mean, it's like, for every bad thing, like, yeah, we were making a lot of money off CDs. You could have a song on an album and make a lot of money, and it wasn't even a hit or anything back in the day. That's over. You know what I mean? And the labels were paying these big events, and that's over. But now, every single time somebody listens to your song, you get paid. That never happened in the history of music before. Like, you know, for every negative, there's a positive. You know what I mean? So you just have to, like, figure out how to deal with it. You know what I mean? If you can't make enough money off streaming, you know, people are making a good living from before pandemic touring and merch, you know what I mean? And things like that. So, there, you know, I have no sympathy for those people. You know, get hip or get out.
Adapt.
Yeah, adapt or just, you know, be the old grandpa complaining on the sidelines, you know.
Come on, because all you're going to do is let time continue to pass you.
But to answer your question, stay abreast, stay talking with young people, meet smart people, stay on technology. You know what I mean? If people are using Instagram or Clubhouse or everything, then use that if you want to be in the game.
Man, shout out to Keith for his producer segment. Man, I'm going to take a pause on the entertainment questions.
Okay.
I got 2 segments. I'm going to try and run through this quickly.
Okay.
My first segment's awareness segment. And
Okay.
I'm talking about when the red and blue lights hit, the high beam hits the back of your neck, and we hear the blurp sound. Being a white boy from Crenshaw, you know, you have some type of insight to understand how the jump out boys really work out here in LA. And my question to you is, when was the last time you're pulled over, and what's advice you can give in a situation so that they can get out of it and safely go home? Which is very hard to do at times.
Yeah, LAPD is nasty, been nasty, and the sheriffs ain't no better. Been a minute since I get pulled over. As an older white man in a nice car, they don't really fuck with me. You know, my homies ain't got it so good. You know what I mean? So, and I'm smart, man. I keep it registered. That's the main thing. Like, don't have taillights out. Have your registration straight. Don't do any illegal traffic moves, and try to avoid certain, like, I don't go to Hollywood a lot. That's like a police zone. Like, you have to be, like, if I'm in Hollywood too, like, I drive and smoke, you know what I mean? But, like, I won't be smoking a blunt if I'm in Hollywood. I'm kind of paranoid about that, you know what I mean? So you got to use your common sense, you know what I mean? You got to kind of, like, don't put yourself at any more risk than you already are, especially if you're a person of color driving around LA. You already got issues. So try to, but basically one of the main things is, like, if you, for most of the police, and this is certainly not for all of them, but for a majority, a lot of them, if you deal with them in a respectful manner, you can usually get that in return. Now, I'm not sticking up for cops that do bad things or anything like that, but I tell you this much, you're going to help your situation if you start off on that respectful tip, for sure, because a cop might be a bad cop, but if you started off on that kind of vibe, he might not go there. And then a lot of cops aren't those kind of cops, so that's not going to be your issue with them. You know what I mean? And those just dirty cops that are like that, all you can do is try to be as straight. First of all, not doing no shit wrong for them really to fuck with you on, and then hopefully, and then try to deal with them in a respectful manner. It's frustrating, that these people have this much control over us, and this, and you know what I mean, all this stuff. So, I would just, try to take any emotion out of it and try to deal with it in a logical way, where it's like, how can I get out of this situation as quickly as possible? Yes. How can I have the best result in this situation of this police pulling me over? And just try to, focus on it like that.
Knowledge is power, but when you use that knowledge, it's a superpower. And there's no greater superpower to have is when you're dealing with the punk-ass police. And you are the first person I've done over 200 interviews, the first person to say, prevent yourself from getting pulled over.
Right.
Basically, you told them, man, make it easy on yourself. Make sure your shit is right before you get out there. That's important.
Yeah. Don't ride dirty, because that's the first thing. I mean, they might fuck with
Don't
you.
give them a reason.
Right. They might fuck with you anyway, but you 9 times out of 10 more likely if you already,
Don't be staring at them and waiting for them to pass you. They'll just pull you over just because you stared at them.
Yeah, don't do weird. Don't do weird shit when you see them. Play it cool. Yeah, because they looking for anybody that's acting kind of funny. Suspect. Yeah.
For real. I'm gonna go on to my next segment. It's a little bit more fun, and it makes you think the same way as the awareness segment. It's called Impulse Q&A. I got 3 questions I want you to answer. Okay. You don't like the question, it's all good. Say pass. I'll hit you with another question. Okay. Still want you to answer 3 questions. Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Question number 1. What is the funniest thing you've seen happen in real life?
Next question.
Question number 1. What is one thing you love but you wish you hated?
Blunts.
Backwood or Swisher?
Dutch Masters.
Dutch Masters.
But definitely back goes with Backwoods too. I kind of got them out of my system, but yeah.
I'm trying.
Which is tobacco in my marijuana period. But the blunts.
Got you. Question number 2. What is one food place you recommend everyone tries at least once when they're in LA?
Oh man, good one. I got a few. Haroon Coffee in Leimert Park has an incredible vegetarian menu. I think they have a few meat items too, primarily vegetarian, and great coffee and stuff. So yeah, Haroon Coffee.
Okay, that's for the coffee. You know.
But no, they got food too.
They do.
Yeah, it's a cafe. Yeah. I mean,
what do you recommend for dinner then?
Natalie Thai.
What's that?
Thai food, Natalie Thai. There's one on Venice and there's one on Olympic and Robertson. You know, Jamaican food. I recommend Juicy's on Washington East of Crenshaw. That's one of my favorite restaurants in LA. For Ethiopian food, there's amazing new Ethiopian food right here in Leimert Park. Asta Ethiopian. It's another bomb one.
Question number 3.
Yeah.
You're trapped on an elevator.
Okay.
You gotta get a playlist to get through it.
Okay.
What's on the playlist?
A mad eclectic mix. You know, a lot of Caribbean music, some old school soul, some old school like Jamaican music, some new contemporary hip hop, some jazz, maybe even blues. You know. R&B, some like player ass, like the internet, like Sid and shit like that. Sade, you know. I
hear you. No, you gonna be
player
vibing.
Shit. Yeah.
You gonna be vibing. My brother, you have survived my awareness segment. You have survived my in-post Q&A. As a reward, the floor is yours. Shout out who you want to shout out. Okay. Promote what you want to promote.
Okay,
Let them know where to find you.
Yeah.
And, you know, I want to shout out Soul Folks. I appreciate you guys for having us and allowing us to have the interview. They got the dopest drip at Leimert Park. And you understand me, if you want to look fresh and ready for what's coming, I'm talking about the vaccine now. You want to be ready for COVID? Stop by, get your drip.
Yeah, I'll start with Soul Folks, too. I mean, I'm part of, like, you know, exterior Soul Folks family. They let me, I'm getting down with them in a few ways. I'm friends with the owners, and it's just an amazing place. And Leimert Park in general is just on fire right now, so I recommend coming down here. We just started, me and my partner Evan Washington just started a new label called View Park Records. This is the View Park area of Crenshaw. You know, Leimert Park, View Park, Baldwin Hills is all kind of like right next to each other. So we're going to be making gear. We're gonna make some like classic hip hop tees and some other like LA style, like, you know, kind of like streetwear gear. We're putting out music, and we have a YouTube page. We have an Instagram page. You can find me personally at Paul_DJP_Stewart on Instagram. All my links are there. Please check out my trailer, A White Boy from Crenshaw. It's on YouTube. If you Google White Boy from Crenshaw, it's the only thing that's going to come up, that's for sure. And there's a link in my Instagram page, you know, and in my bio on my Instagram page. And yeah, you know, I have my new consulting company. You can DM me on Instagram to find out more information. In my bio now, I have a little link tree, and there's a link to the menu and the page. You can email me and everything, you know. And so, yeah, I say Instagram for me personally for View Park, and check out the YouTube. Subscribe to the View Park YouTube page. That's where the White Boy from Crenshaw trailer is. And yeah, that's really what I want to shout out right now.
You know, from watching the trailer and you plugging it, it makes me want to ask, when is that motherfucker dropping?
Well, you know, I made the trailer to get the interest in the film, and it worked, you know, hands down. So now I'm negotiating deals. So I don't really, it's a TBD type of situation. But, you know, it's coming, and it's going to be big, and we'll get back and do another one when it's, you know, closer to the time we can promote it and everything.
Brother,
yeah.
Please.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was a great interview. It was really interesting. Some of the best questions, most interesting questions I've been asked since I've been doing interviews. So
no, that's dope. That's a plug.
Yeah.
If you notice, brother, this show's different. It's unique. They have segments over there, but I don't do segments like them.
Right.
And I'm like, how do I keep that same energy and close out? The viewers knows it's coming. I'm gonna hit you with it. You got any questions for me?
Man, I really want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for the questions and everything that you did, and, you know, taking the time to come up with the interesting things, because when you get interviewed for a podcast and things, typically it's just like the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you discovered this group. Tell us about Def Jam. And it was nice. Like, all that is kind of covered in my thing, so people can check that out. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of podcasts with me telling my whole history or whatever, more or less. So I thought this was a lot more interesting, man. So just props to you. Keep doing what you're doing, man.
I appreciate you, brother.
No problem.
On that note, it's Contrast Uncut. It's season 4, episode 42. You know, I got to give a big shout outs to Uncle Snoop's Army and Bobby D Presents. I appreciate you, brothers. You know, I wouldn't be able to do incredibly dope shit like interview, you know, Paul Stewart and chop it up about his history. And this brother let these gems just drop. Or, you know, he let the 150 round carat drums hit you. And, you know, if the diamond didn't dance and hit you in the face, then you just sipping air, brother. That's on you. Thank you, brother. I can't say that enough.
Appreciate you. What's up, man? This is Paul Stewart, DJP, a white boy from Crenshaw, and you're watching Contrast Uncut. Big shout out to Snoop Dogg, his Army, and Bobby D.
You hear me?
You hear me? One love.
Yeah. This really remind me of some, this really reminds me of some Tribe Called Quest. Hip-hop really taught me to give it all I got left. Wu-Tang taught us how to beat the projects and tell my story over beats and it could be a project. Look, how it all begun. Bum, skibbity bum. Yeah, grew up on that Nas, on that L, on that pun. Old soul when I was young. Crisscross, make them jump. Battle rapping for respect, my nigga, this ain't what you want. Can I kick it when I'm rhyming? Be a legend through Ebonics. Was a sticker boy. Felt like sticky fingers played at Onyx. Can I live track 8? Feel like Jigga 96. Without a reasonable doubt, the album turned me into this. Shit, we always had dreams of being money making Mitch. Without jewelry on, hit a jail pose, take a flick. Feel like Pac and keep your head up. Biggie shooting juice.